and Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. Today is March 30th, 2022, and we will begin with a calling of the roll.
Councilmember Hampton.
Blessed to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy is not yet in the meeting. Councilmember Madison.
Here.
Councilmember Masuda.
Here.
Councilmember Rivas.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wilson.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mayor Gordo.
Here.
There is a quorum of the council present.
Supervisor Barger, may I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would be honored. Would everyone please stand and face the flag? Your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and Supervisor. Thank you to you and your staff for joining us. As everyone knows, this is our annual joint meeting, and it's important to have this meeting in order to coordinate with our county partners, particularly in times of crisis as we've experienced in the last couple of years. And so we welcome Supervisor Barger and her staff and look forward to a productive meeting. Supervisor, would you like to make some opening comments before we get started?
Thank you, Mayor Gordo, and thank you to the entire City Council. You know, this really is an opportunity for us to engage in dialogue, but I want everyone to know that it's not just once a year when we come together to do this. I am so fortunate to have a great relationship with all of you, and I think today just is going to be discussing issues that are relevant right now, but I just am very grateful to each and every one of you for the relationship we have, and thank you for being an incredible mayor and city council, representing an amazing city, by the way.
Thank you. And we have an agenda before us. We've estimated the amount of time that we expect each item to take. I'm going to ask all of us to try and stick to that time. I know the supervisor has a hard stop and many others on the council do as well. And so I want to be sure that we have an opportunity to discuss all of the items on our agenda. We can always circle back if there are additional questions or information that may be needed and provide that information. So with that, why don't we proceed with agenda item 2. And this is an update on future work plan for the completion of the Devil's Gate Dam Reservoir Restoration Project. And let me just say to the county team and to Supervisor Barger that you know, this is an important project. We understand the complexity of it. I think the project started out a little bit slow, if you will, in terms of addressing some of the concerns that people had, but Supervisor, with your help and assistance, I've heard from many residents that things have improved vastly. And so I personally want to thank you for having become personally involved and ensuring that county departments responded appropriately to some of the concerns of Pasadena residents. Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor Gordo, because I know you were involved as well as Councilmember Hampton. And, you know, I mean, I think this project is an example of working through a bureaucracy to make it a better project. And I've got Keith Lilly here, who's the Deputy Director from Public Works, to give an update in terms of where we are and where we're going on this project. Keith?
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Mayor Gordo. Thank you, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, I'm Keith Lilly. I'm Deputy Director over our water resources here at Public Works. This project, the Devil's Gate Reservoir, is close to my heart. I've presented before this council many times in my prior capacity as a planning for this project, and I'm really excited to be here to you know, talk a little bit or present the outcome of this effort, where we are kind of show some of the comparison of the before and afters and talk about our continued efforts to improve this facility, improve the community amenities by addressing some improvements at the entrance of the reservoir and of the park. With that, I have Keith Holla of my staff, who's been working hard, working very closely with City of Pasadena staff on this to make sure we're addressing all of the community concerns. I really appreciate the collaboration on these efforts. And with that, I'll turn it over to Keith to walk through a slideshow of some of the progress and some of the what's to come with the entrance. And afterwards, I'll be happy to answer any questions along with Keith. Thank you.
And Keith, we're going to bring up that
All right.
PowerPoint now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Keith, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here. As you said, my name is Keith. I'm a civil engineer with LA County Public Works, and I am the project manager overseeing the Devil's Gate Reservoir Restoration Project, or at least the tail end of it. I know it's been, a decade long coming along, so I'm kind of pleased to kind of pull in the end of it and work through the end of it with everyone here. So next slide. The quick agenda, we'll go over construction updates, how the project went, and then move on into ongoing efforts that everyone will see, including the habitat restoration component of the project and some of the remaining work, including the southeast entrance. And at the end, we'll return to our Q&A. So a quick overview of who we are, Public Works, LA County Public Works and the Flood Control District. We're really proud of this project. We felt like it really fit a lot of our mission statement to control the conservation of water and ensure that flood capacity is available for all downstream communities. We have a vast network of channels, dams, and we feel that Devil's Gate is one of our really key components to this vast network. Very central, very residential. A lot of people are around that area, and we really like to focus a lot of attention on this dam. So next slide. So yeah, construction update. Here we have a wonderful picture taken, I believe that was this past December. So construction finished, we're very proud to announce, a whole year ahead of schedule. So a lot of residents, I think, have been happy with that news. There's been a variety of factors as to why that was. One of the ones that we're really proud of for this project overall is we really took a community-first approach to this project and engaged with the community very often. And one of the items we wanted to really improve upon was the time that trucks would enter and exit the facility. And through working with the community, we really created an efficient schedule of trucks entering and exiting, and they were able to move sediment a lot more quickly. And so we also had pretty decent weather. There wasn't a lot of debris that came down during the construction, but yeah, we finished in September of 2021, and we removed the amount that would equate to 3 Rose Bowls. So we were really proud of that, and we do feel that it came at a very, very critical time. As we all know, these past December, there was really a dramatic series of storms that came through. And I believe Devil's Gate Dam saw up to 12 inches of rain during that time period. And with the added capacity that we restored to this dam as a result of this project, we were able to hold back all of that water and protect the downstream communities. If that storm had come even a year earlier, there's a chance that there could have been some bigger flood issues downstream. So we're very happy about all the cooperative efforts that came as a result of that. So next slide. So some of the ongoing things that everyone will see if you're in the area is the habitat restoration. As a result of the impact of our project, we are mitigating both around Devil's Gate Reservoir and off-site as well. So we have a few slides here, pictures showing the restoration efforts up top, how they started. And then also we have some pictures a year later of how they're going. So Johnson Field is at sort of the southern end of the Arroyo Seco spreading ground, and we turned the bottom one into what will hopefully become a big forest and in a few years, we'll see some large trees in that area. One of our really proud moments is last year we saw a nesting and successful fledgling of the leaf salveria. They are an endangered bird species that was just found recently in this area to be nesting. So we're hoping that continues on as our restoration efforts continue and we create more suitable habitat for the native species in this area. So anyone who visits the site, you'll see our crews there every day doing mitigation efforts, non-native species removals and plantings of more suitable habitat. Next slide. Then, as I mentioned, we did some off-site mitigation as well. This is up in North County. It's about 30 acres of habitat that are being restored, and it will match sort of the habitat that is found at Devil's Gate. So it's kind of emulating a bit of that habitat in the north area. The next slide. So this is showing the pre-restoration photos and then our efforts a year later. So again, we're pleased to announce that we've been making really good success on that and reaching our criteria for restoration efforts. Next slide. So one of the big items that is still on the agenda for us at this site is that we had to modify some of the entrances for this project, and the one in particular is at the southeast entrance. And I'll show some slides later about how the visual of this looks. But in our efforts to restore this, we wanted to make sure that, again, we're putting public first and that we're engaging with the community to see exactly what it is that they want this entrance to look like. It's a pretty key feature to the park. There's 5 hiking trails that meet at this point. It's also our key entrance into the flood control facility, so it's pretty important to us. As well as I think the city of Pasadena uses it as well. So as a result of that, we've had 3 outreach community meetings in September, November, and January. And then as COVID has sort of settled a little bit, we were able to have a successful on-site meeting this past March. And we had a great meeting with the city of Pasadena. They had a lot of representatives there. The Hahamunga Accountability Project, which is a community group, and the Arroyo Seco Foundation, which also is another active group on the site. So as a result of those on-site meetings, we're continuing our coordination between Public Works and Pasadena for the upcoming months, and we'll look to have another public coordination meeting in late April, early May, and we'll continue kind of talking about what we're going to do to the southeast entrance. Next slide. So this is an overview shot of what the southeast entrance that I'm talking about looks like. This is how it looks right now, and we had reconfigured the access points as a result of the needs of our project. Originally, trucks would come in through the cul-de-sac on the right, that's blocking out a Verdugo cul-de-sac, and it's a residential neighborhood, and trucks would travel through the residential neighborhood to get to our site. And so we didn't want to send all of our sediment removal trucks through there. So we added what we call a slip lane. And that's sort of the off-ramp from Oak Grove Drive that leads right into the reservoir. And so now our sediment trucks can go through without impacting the residential neighborhood. So all of this was reconfigured, and there's been general broad interest by the community as well as Public Works and Pasadena to restore some or enhance this area to be more a natural appearance, meeting points, a great feature for the entrance to the Hahamunga Park. So next slide. Quick history. This is how the entrance looked before our project started. This is looking at the entrance from walking out of Verdugo. As you can see, kind of a wide entrance. There was it would lead kind of right into the reservoir, and then Oak Grove is sort of above and behind that trailer or truck rather, and the trees behind it. And next slide, you'll see how it looks now. So next slide. So this is how it looks at the current moment. As you can see, the entrance was closed off to vehicular access. And we've had to kind of do some grade adjustments to join up the trucks coming off of Oak Grove entering our site. A little bit more barren, there's a little bit more visibility of Oak Grove from the cul-de-sac. And so we met with the community, like I said, 3 times, and took a lot of their input, and we've created a bunch of, or several renderings that we show next about what we're proposing and what we'd like to do to this area. So next slide. This is the first rendering we have. This is looking at looking from the cul-de-sac into the entrance to the park. So some of the key features that we have are there's a row of trees that we'll be adding. There's some trees in the further back. There's an earthen berm that will be added to kind of add a visual separation. As people enter through the area, there'll be a separation from Oak Grove. Additionally, we'll have an ADA ramp accessibility feature added. There'll be a bioswale component sort of on the right side that will take street runoff and create a riparian habitat. We've added several boulders just to make sure that if vehicles did hop the curb, that there's a protection to pedestrians walking through. A welcome sign to greet visitors with the Hahamunga history or park rules. Be a collaborative effort with the local communities to develop what kind of information is presented to that. But yeah, our main focus here is to create a natural feel as guests are welcomed into the park. Next slide. So again, this is the current view. You're sort of standing on the split lane looking at both Oak Grove and the cul-de-sac. Next slide. So this would be our proposed idea. Here you can kind of see a bit more of a better perspective of those trees that we'd be adding on the right, as well as another one in the middle. The bioswale is sort of featured on the left, and then the pedestrian path walks to the right. There are a few items here we would like to update as a result of our last meeting in March in the field. One of them would be a wider path. That was something the community was asking. And another one was potentially looking into moving this path to the left side and the bioswale to the right side. What that would do is serve as a separation between our slip lane and this walking path. Kind of create, like we said, more of that barrier between the people walking and Oak Grove. We would additionally be putting in some bike features and improving the safety for all users, as well as our staff, pedestrians, bikers, and other motorists using Oak Grove. Next slide. This is sort of flipped around. You're looking into the park along Oak Grove. And next slide. This is showing our proposed enhancements, nicer fencing, some shrubs that will create more of a visual barrier from the roadway, the bioswale, and again, some of the updates that could be done to this is moving the pedestrian path to the right side to create more of a natural feel as you're entering the park. Next slide. Overview plan of this kind of goes over everything that we just said, but it's kind of thought it would be a nice overview of what we've talked about already. So we're looking to add maybe 4 or 5, 6 trees along the path itself. We'd be looking to potentially install some oak trees up above as well. That was one of the community comments that we're looking into. Next slide. So yeah, Q&A, if anyone has any questions about sort of what we've gone through so far.
So we'll take down.
Thank you, Keith. And I just have to say, I mean, and I know that Gene has his hand up, but Mayor and City Council, while this park is serving multiple purposes, in particular, including flood protection and for the downstream communities, I really do want you to feel that we're viewing this as a community asset and want this to be something that benefits, hikers as well. And the community advisory committee that helps with input, as well as just community really has made this a better project. And one of the issues that has come up is the sheds, the maintenance sheds that are on that property. And it's something that we are looking at. And I agree that we need to either look at replacement or updating and making those look more fitting based on the renderings that you've seen. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I think the the issue of the sheds is an important one, given the level of investment that's going into the project and frankly how nice it is going to be. I would hate to see the sheds remain as a reminder of what used to be. I think we'd all be better served if the project were complete, and I think that means at some point replacing the sheds as well. Mr.
Agreed.
Mr. Masuda?
100%.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say good morning to Supervisor and staff. Thank you for being here. I have a question for Keith Hala. Did I say your name right, Keith?
Paula.
Hala. Thank you for the report. And congratulations on finishing the project early. What's the plan going forward on doing restorations? You're going to do a major restoration or do small ones?
In terms of sediment removal?
Yes.
Yeah, so yes, our plan is to go in each August, September of the summer and do smaller removals of sediment. Essentially, what we're going to do is only remove what comes in each season. So, rather than 1 million cubic yards, we look to only remove, I think on average, it's, near 20,000 cubic yards in sediment. So we would go in and remove little by little as it comes in.
Good. That was my question. Thank you, Mayor.
Gene, that's what got us into this mess, is by not keeping yearly update. And so we're not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hampton?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Supervisor Barger, for being here with us and always being extremely responsive to the needs of Pasadena. As it relates to this project, I'm going to keep it very brief. I've been aware of all the meetings. My office has been in the majority of them, as well as Chris Markarian from the city side. So thank you, Cynthia, for appointing someone from our city side to be hands-on as this project rolls out. I'll just chime in on the sheds or those guard houses or stations, whatever they are, or whatever they used to be. That definitely needs to be updated. So I'm glad that there is a consensus here between the mayor and the supervisor, and hopefully the public works staff and myself to do something about those sheds. Then I'm glad that there's going to be a buffer between the slip lane and that walkway to so it looks more like a park versus you just kind of walking close to a road. My other question is, as it relates to, on that side, there's two entrances. There's the slip lane, and then there's also the entrance that goes straight down the hill. And I don't even know how to, it's a very hard graded hill. There's the slip lane, and then there's another gate entrance. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. I mean, well, it's right next to each other. They're like 100 feet away. Will one of those entrances be closed?
The current plan is the slip lane would remain there, and then we don't have a better name for it either. Just we call it the 90-degree entrance, because the slip lane kind of comes in as an angle, and then the 90-degree entrance. The current plan is to keep both of them there. The 90-degree entrance also acts as the exit. The slip lane in its current configuration is kind of a one-way in. So that second entrance exit acts as an exit for when we're doing our operations and maintenance throughout the year. We sometimes bring in big vehicles to boom off debris from the reservoir, and that exit is needed for those trucks to turn back onto Oak Grove. So the current idea is to do so for them.
So what about the other exit, further, further up the street, about 1,000 feet? Is that exit going to be completely closed off?
You're talking about sort of the one on the west side of the dam?
On the west side of the dam.
Yeah, so yeah, that one, that exit is used during our larger sediment cleanup that we were going to do in August and September. When the reservoir is dry, the trucks would come in from the slip lane, go down into the reservoir, take their sediment, and then they would exit out the west side. The issue during the storm season, and then we saw this past December, is that when the reservoir is full with water, they can't access the west ramp because it ends up being inundated. So that's sort of, the west ramp becomes inaccessible to us during the storm season.
Would you be removing sediment during the storm season?
No, no, there'd be no sediment removal during the storm season. There would only be in August. But during the storm season, woody debris and material gets washed down into the reservoir, and we need to kind of scoop off the floating material as opposed to a threat to the safety of the dam. So we go in with boats and kind of scoop that off, and it all gets scooped over to the east side.
And the only way to get in is from the eastern entrance and not the western entrance.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that explains a lot more. So with that being said, I'm not going to belabor the point. There is going to be a series of other meetings, and I just want to say thank you to Public Works, as well as once again to Catherine Barger and her staff for always being extremely responsive. And this project has gone a long way, and I applaud all of the efforts, and I'm thankful for all the neighbors that have been involved in making sure that we get this project right. So with that being said, thank you again for the presentation. I'm excited about what the park's going to look like in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton. And we have approximately 6 minutes left on this agenda item, and we do have one public speaker, Mr. Kennedy, followed by Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Gordo. Again, I'd like to, as my colleagues have already expressed, thank the supervisor for being here. It's always important for her and her staff to join us in this joint meeting where we can really talk about the real issues, albeit briefly. Keith, I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Thank you for your presentation. During the sediment removal, can you tell us just briefly what the sampling of the soils behind the dam revealed as it relates to contaminants, no contaminants, contaminants that are acceptable parts per billion? Can you just briefly share that with us?
I will try and share what I'm aware of. I know that at least for the duration that I was on the project, which was kind of the tail end of it, they were able to essentially pick up the material and bring it directly to our sediment placement site. So I'm not entirely sure that there was contaminants towards the tail end of the project. I might actually ask Lily, did you know if there was any issues in the first part of the project?
Yeah, you know that there were no issues with constituents of concern with respect to the sediment and its placement. You know, if there were toxic substances that would preclude us from handling it in a normal manner, taking it to normal landfill, using it as cover, those type of things. If there was too much organics, it would be rejected. So there are no issues with that. I know you use the terminology parts per billion, and that often is referred to in the emissions from the vehicles. I just want to clarify that the air quality concern was not your question, but it is indeed the sediment.
It is the sediment, and whatever the terminology that's used by the EPA would be fine. If you have any report about the soil and the contaminants, I'd ask that you share them with the city of Pasadena through our city manager. That's important to me. I don't want it to become any less important. And that is the real issue for me. And then Keith, I'd like to know very briefly, because the mayor said we don't have much time, what has been your interaction with the committee that's up there at Hahamanga involving, I believe, former chair of MWD, Tim Brick?
Yeah, so there's the Hahamanga Watershed, I can't remember the name, committee, and we meet every 2 months, I believe. And so I've been engaging with them and updating them on the project. Tim Brick has shown up to a couple of those meetings, but beyond the committee meetings, I do engage with him on a somewhat regular basis. He was invited to that March meeting we had in the field, and he's involved in our habitat restoration efforts. We received plants from him to add to the restoration efforts, and he's been invited to these community meetings as well. So the Arroyo Seco Foundation has been updated on a lot of these topics.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'll just leave it there. Hopefully, Keith Liley, if you would give us any information that you have or your staff has related to contaminants, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address these extraordinary gentlemen. I think there's a movie about you guys, but thank you.
I'll send you the soil reports or get a copy for the city.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Williams?
Mayor? Thank you. So just really quickly, I think this is just an item for the future, but Councilmember Hampton addressed a lot of the entrance and other issues that were brought to our attention in a couple of emails that we received. But just the ongoing, if we could make clear what the ongoing maintenance plan is going forward to prevent something like this from happening again in the future, just make that clear to the community. And then also as to us as council members, so we know how this area will be maintained so that it serves its purpose in the future.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, for sure. We have a maintenance plan that was built into the projects during the EIR process, and we are currently updating it to include community measures and improvements that we learned during the project of how to, make sure air quality is accounted, and a lot of the other community measures are incorporated into our future sediment removal, smaller components. So we'll be making that available to the public on our website and to Pasadena as well once that becomes available. So probably this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think it would be helpful to have the measures that will be taken for ongoing maintenance, as well as the timeline when that maintenance will occur, so that we can keep our residents informed and they can expect to see work being conducted. So that would be very helpful to have. Thank you, everyone. We have one public comment.
Jill Shook,
Ms. Shook, welcome.
1 minute and 30 seconds. Jill, can you unmute?
Ms. Shook? Ms. Shook, can you hear us?
Jill, can you unmute?
Yes,
there you
I
go.
apologize.
1 minute, 30
I think I
seconds.
got the numbers,
Oh,
excuse me, I think I got the numbers confused, and so I plan to speak on the next agenda item. Thank you.
Gotcha. So there are no other public comments on this item, Mayor.
Okay. Supervisor, did you have any closing comments on this matter, or shall we move on to the next?
I just want to publicly thank Keith Squared, both Keith for your incredible work, as well as Mark Estrella, who runs Public Works, for the job you all have done, and just appreciate everything you're doing. And we will get you that maintenance schedule. I think it's important for us to continue this collaboration. I think that's made this project work. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Keith, great job. You guys really jumped in under difficult circumstances and did a great job. So on behalf of the city, thank you. Next item is information on item 3, information on the Partnership for Providing Homeless Services, and this will be presented by Bill Wong, Pasadena's Director of Housing. Bill?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and Supervisor Barger. As we all know, addressing affordable housing, addressing homelessness is a complicated issue. It is best done in a collaborative manner. And I wanted to highlight a few areas where the county and the city are collaborating together, and then also some upcoming challenges that we expect to see, and to make sure that we're all on the same page and can continue to work together in a spirit of collaboration. May I have the PowerPoint, please? We have two. Oop, here it comes. All right. We have two. Getting a lot of reverb there. We have two very.
1 second. We're gonna fix that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We have two very exciting permanent supportive housing developments in our pipeline. As we know, nothing ends homelessness except for permanent housing. So the Salvation Army Pasadena Hope Center is currently under construction, and it'll provide 66 units of permanent supportive housing for individuals, including, I believe, 16 units for veterans, and have a state-of-the-art food pantry on the first floor. And the collaboration here is that both the city and the county have committed capital dollars to this project, and the city also committed project-based vouchers. And once the project is up and running, then the county will provide funding for the services. So this is a really exciting project. It's under construction, should be finished around the end of the year. The second project is Heritage Square South, and this is permanent supportive housing also for chronically homeless seniors, 69 units for the seniors, and some first floor retail. And on this particular project, the city committed the land, committed capital funding, and project-based vouchers. And again, the county, when the project is finished, will provide the services on an ongoing basis. So we're really appreciative of the collaboration that has made these two projects possible. This particular project is fully funded and will start construction in the next 2 to 3 months. We're really appreciative of this collaboration that enables these permanent supportive housing projects to move forward. In Pasadena, our housing authority, we have basically hit our cap on project-based vouchers. So permanent supportive housing projects need ongoing rental support, and project-based vouchers is the best way to do it. So we've hit our cap, and we've had some preliminary discussions with the county about if we hit our cap, is it possible to access some county vouchers to enable future permanent supportive housing projects to happen. If not, probably we can't continue to develop permanent supportive housing. Even though the will is there and even some land is available for it. So that's something that we're really hoping to work out with the county if that is possible. We understand the county has a lot of demand for their project-based vouchers as well. In terms of Measure H, we are really thankful that this last year, our contracts with Measure H have moved into the CEO's office to sort of streamline the approval process, the contracting process. So we really appreciate that. At our last meeting with Cherie, she mentioned that the possibility that funds might be kind of block granted to the continuums of care to be able, so that continuums of care could decide within a certain number of strategies, which strategies to fund and how much. That's something that we've advocated for from the very beginning in Measure H, and so we really support that idea and think it would be an effective way to quickly get the money out and address the top priorities as the local COCs, continuums of care, understand them to be. And then lastly, there are some rollover funds for these Measure H dollars. And in large part, we have rollover funds because the contracts in the past have been taking so long to get approved that by the time they happen, there's not much left of the fiscal year. So we're not able to spend all the funding in that particular year. So we would like to be sure that we can retain these rollover funds so that they can be deployed. There certainly is a need for the funds. And then because we also, besides hitting our cap on the project-based vouchers, we're also hitting the cap on our dollars, capital dollars, to develop new affordable housing. And so we have been working with our colleagues in Burbank and Glendale and with Senator Portantino. And Senator Portantino has introduced a bill, SB 1177, to establish the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Regional Housing Trust Fund. I'm proposing maybe it just be shortened to Blendina, maybe Regional Housing Trust. I don't know. No one else has picked up on that idea. But anyway, it is moving forward, going to its first subcommittee, the Governance and Finance Committee, tomorrow. And it's a two-step process. On the one hand, the legislation is to create the Joint Powers Authority, and then Senator Portantino has a parallel budget request. And right now, his budget request is anticipated to be at least $35 million to seed this fund. And this will give us more capital dollars because we have even the Heritage Square project, the one that's ready to start construction. Even that one, we were not able to access the county NOFA dollars because there was so much demand. Even though it was a high-scoring project, the city's committed, land and capital and project-based vouchers, and it hit a high priority. It still was not able to get a NOFA commitment. So this bill, if it is approved, and if there's funding to seed the trust fund, will enable us to utilize these funds instead of having to rely on the county NOFA dollars. So we're hoping that supervisor and maybe the entire board of supervisors will write a letter of support for SB 1177. And then lastly, there are a number of issues, a number of encampments in the unincorporated East Pasadena area. We get a lot of calls, we get a lot of complaints regarding these encampments, and we know that the county has been addressing them with outreach and enforcement and cleanup. But we would just like to hear a little bit more about what the county has planned for the unincorporated East Pasadena encampments, because they are outside of Pasadena. So our teams don't reach out to that area. Yes, and also we do get steady calls of concern regarding homelessness at the metro stations, folks getting on and off the trains, and would like to work together on how to address that particular issue as well.
Thank you. Let me just say that the issue of the stations is one that keeps surfacing, and I know that some time ago, the county metro put in additional resources to maintain and secure the stations, and I think it's time for metro to repeat that. And so, supervisor, anything you can do to assist with that would be very welcome. It's defeating to visit one of the stations and see them sometimes in conditions that discourage people from utilizing the stations. So I'd like to work together. We'd like to work together with you to improve those. In terms of the regional housing trust, I would ask for a letter of support for that bill. And let me just point out that we did coordinate with the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, and the decision was made that rather than compete with the cities in the San Gabriel Valley COG, we would join efforts with cities west of us and allow the COG cities to coordinate housing, and we would work with Glendale and Burbank in order to to maximize resources that come into the region. And the COG did support that, and so I was pleased.
Mayor, they were frozen for a second.
Oh.
Supervisor Barger's site was frozen, but
Okay.
it looks like they're back. I think they can hear us now.
So I just wanted you to know that there is some coordination between the San Gabriel Valley COG and our efforts in the Tri-Cities. And it is coordinated. We are trying to maximize resources, and the San Gabriel Valley COG supported our effort. So we would appreciate a letter of support to create that housing trust.
Yeah, so on that, Mayor Gordo, on the
Yes.
housing trust on Tuesday's agenda, I have a motion for the board to take a position in support of.
Great. Oh, I think you froze. Did she freeze, Supervisor?
So the supervisor's site fell off. We'll hopefully get them back. I think they're coming back in now.
Okay. So we'll just hold for 1 second.
I think it's just their Wi-Fi at their side. It's not our side.
We're just holding, colleagues, we're holding off a supervisor's site froze. Are you back?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, not sure if some of the other county staff would like to address while the supervisor joins back.
Hi, I'm
Sure.
Sheree Todoroff. I'm with LA County with the Homeless Initiative, and good morning, council members, and to the supervisor and staff when they return, and to Bill as well. Just want to express deep appreciation for the partnership that we've had over the years. I've been fortunate enough to work with Bill and his team in my prior position with the Department of Health Services, Housing for Health, and investing locally funded rental subsidies into Pasadena, into both project-based sites as well as tenant-based, and also funding supportive services for the continuum of services in Pasadena as well. And now in my current position with the Homeless Initiative, I'm really embracing and enjoying the ability to continue that partnership. Bill, want to acknowledge what we had talked about. We are definitely looking at increasing that flexibility with the CFC funding so that you can use them in the way that best meets your local needs, as well as that rollover issue as well. So you have full access to the dollars once again to meet your local needs. Also heard from LACDA about the conversations that you have had related to the project-based voucher cap and the ability of the county to be able to support development in Pasadena with PBVs. And that sounds like that is a conversation that is progressing well, and something that LACDA wants to be able to support when they can, as long as they have the capacity to do that. And so just really looking forward to furthering the partnership and to working with you to address homelessness in Pasadena. And I know there were some questions about encampments as well, and I think Lieutenant Diedrich and our LASA colleagues might be in the best position to respond to some of those.
Thank you. Supervisor, you froze up. I'm not sure if you were.
I know, I think I'm back. I think I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know. Why don't you talk about the encampments, because I know we've talked about this, and I could write a book on some of these encampments, because we know who these individuals are, especially up by the Dove Edwards. So, Lieutenant, why don't you go ahead and touch base in terms of what we're doing, and I want to publicly thank you and your team for being a resource for us as it relates to enforcement.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Pasadena City Council for having me. And thank you, Supervisor Barger, for your unwavering support of the host team. The host team is a unique law enforcement team. It was the first of its kind in LA County. And for our Pasadena, for this council, we're a co-response team where we have members of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority embedded as one team with our highly specialized homeless outreach deputy sheriff. So this team deploys throughout LA County, and our main purview is addressing homeless encampments of 5 or more people. And the criteria is 5 or more people and basically where they reside, where they have their personal belongings, and that's where they live. And in LA County, we have what's called the LA County Homeless Encampment Resolution Protocol. And it was a protocol developed in 2012 that to date has had 100% success. And as it relates to the entire topic, and I'll briefly talk about that. But basically, it's a 5-step process that's firmly rooted in constitutional principles, compassion and dignity. It addresses homeless encampments, be it 5 or 50, in the same manner. It adheres to all the legal principles, the federal laws, state laws, local laws, and it also gives each person in the encampment an opportunity and multiple opportunities to connect with service providers to help them transition off the street. The unique thing about the host team is, because we're a member of E6 strategy through the Homeless Initiative Office, is that we are connected to every single county department in Los Angeles County. And so that cuts a lot of red tape, it cuts a lot of time. Obviously, if you have Supervisor Barger as an unwavering supporter of your team, it helps you. But the bottom line is we can get things done with a phone call that quite often can take people months. And we've had tremendous support within the county family, as well as police departments throughout Southern California. It's not a one-size-fits-all to address the homeless issue. However, using the host model in our 5-step process, we find the individual needs for each person we come across. And so what happens is a person with mental health needs is connected to a mental health professional. A person with substance abuse needs is connected to a substance abuse. Someone who's in poverty connect to proper services and workforce development and our partners through DPS and DHS in the county. And lastly, because I know I'm being brief and I know Ms. Barnett from last was talking, is one of the main differences also is we have our mental evaluation team is attached to the host team. So not only do you have specialized deputy sheriffs for homeless outreach with, crisis stabilization, trauma-informed care, harm reduction, all the things that we've transitioned to, we have our mental evaluation team. And we all recognize that that's a crisis in LA County right now. And having them with us has been an amazing asset. And that's only done with the support of the Board of Supervisors and the sheriff on our end, where the host team is the one thing everyone can agree on, that it's a humanitarian effort that's helping those on the streets. So I thank you for your time. I will let you know that the host team now is the lead and the point for the homeless encampments in the unincorporated area. I know our team is going to be there 3 days a week until it's done. I believe there's a tentative date early in May that I believe may get moved up to April, but we'll see based on other projects. Sometimes there's an ebb and flow, but the host team is the lead on those projects right now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Barnett.
Good morning, Supervisor Barger and council members. Thank you for having us this morning. I can't explain as eloquently as my partner, Lieutenant Diedrich, the amazing work that we do through the host model. I would just add to what Lieutenant Diedrich says, as far as outreach is concerned, we want to make sure that we're working together with all the outreach teams. So in addition to what was explained earlier, we also coordinate with our partners that participate and are funded through our Measure H and through the city of Pasadena as well, participating in Pasadena Care Coordination and collaborations. There's a monthly meeting that service providers attend to ensure that we're not letting anyone fall through the gaps, although sometimes it's inevitable when people are moved around or have to go somewhere different. Our efforts include bringing partners from DHS, DMH, like Lieutenant Diedrich says. We've also been able to integrate, through this pandemic, our partners from DHS for COVID response to ensure that we're getting folks indoors that need to be quarantined, providing meals and life-saving resources to ensure folks are safe. Along with that, when pandemic hit, we worked together with our county partners and Department of Public Works to ensure that we were, although unable to move or clear out encampments, we were able to do proactive work doing spot cleaning, ensuring that any type of resource that we can provide in partnership with our partners were available and ready, and really in a quick manner of days, we were able to pull that together. So excited to be here and answer any questions that you all may have.
Yeah, and while I'm on, I mean, I just have to say that, Bill, I appreciate the partnership we have with the city of Pasadena. My goal with the Blue Ribbon task force that was put together is to look at our cities and look at flexibility and providing resources to each individual city to address the issues surrounding homelessness. And the city of Pasadena has been an incredible partner. You showed some projects that are coming online, and I have to say that the housing component is first and foremost an important tool moving forward with addressing homelessness in the community. But I know that Captain Sean Stevo's on as it relates to the transportation side of addressing the homeless population, and we have been partnering with you, Sean. I want to thank you because looking at our metro stops, it's important for us to do outreach as well, to address not only those that are experiencing homelessness that are living or near our stations, but also the individuals that are accessing public transportation. We want to make sure that we provide a safe environment for them as well. And so I don't know if, Sean, you just want to touch really quickly on what we're doing. I know we had a success in Arcadia, but I know we're looking at Pasadena as well, the gold mine stops.
Thank you, Supervisor. And thank you, Council. We have over 35 deputies that deploy out in the San Gabriel Valley, which also covers the Pasadena area, of course, for any crimes related to any public transit, so buses as well as the Gold Line on the L line. I'm happy to report that overall crimes on the Gold Line are very small in comparison to other areas. So as an example, the last 2 years, specific to Pasadena only stations, we've had a total of 54 crimes that were reported. So that's a pretty relatively small number when we're looking over a 2-year period. That being said, we work very closely with Lieutenant Diedrich's team. We have our own transit mental evaluation team, which actively works on the public transit system and throughout the Gold Line corridor there in Pasadena. And they have a number of success stories that they've been able to bring forward. Overall, we're out there, we're visible. We're instituting this week, actually, a train riding team. So we're going to have 8 deputies actively riding the Gold Line throughout commuter hours. So you'll see more visibility on the system. And in addition to that, we have an 8-deputy special assignment team, which has been working very closely with the school children. We've been having a lot of complaints about interacting with children going to and from school. So we've been out there doing both undercover operations as well as very active uniformed operations during those school hours. We've also done a number of fentanyl awareness booths, as well as presentations at some of the schools that connect to the Gold Line. So we're out there actively in the community and being as visible as we possibly can be.
Thank you, Captain Kehoe. So with that, I mean, I'd be happy to take any questions, but also, Sri, thank you for the work that you're doing. I mean, Measure H dollars are important to get out into the community, and my commitment to my cities, especially the city of Pasadena, which has your own COC, which creates opportunities, but also some barriers as it relates to accessing more dollars. I think we need to work together to see how we can best ensure that the flow of money is coming into to your city. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before I turn to my colleagues, let me just say that the COC issue and the recommendations or the discussion at the Blue Ribbon Task Force is one that I'm following very closely. We have been disappointed in Pasadena that we've not received our fair share of resources related to Measure H. And I can tell you a lot of the cities in the San Gabriel Valley at the COG level are upset about the same issue. And I think it's important to keep in mind that Measure H comes up for renewal in just 5 years. And so we've got to figure out a way on the governance issue and on the resource issue to ensure that cities like Pasadena and those around us are receiving the Measure H dollars that we need to address the homeless issue in Pasadena.
That is exactly why I put together the Blue Ribbon Commission, Mayor Gordo, and actually it was dialogue with your city, as well as the other members of the COG that really did push Supervisor Solis and I to bring this forward, to really look at how we are allocating the resources to our 87 cities. Obviously, the 88th is LA City, but this came from bottom-up approach.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for doing that. I think the Blue Ribbon discussion has been fruitful and raised some important governance and resource allocation issues that need to be discussed. Ms. Williams, followed by Mr. Madison, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the Los Angeles County team. First, a comment. We have been working with Captain Kehoe on some issues with the students that are attending the Duarte Arts Magnet from Pasadena, and they have been very responsive. The kids have taken pictures of the sheriff on the train and having them help the kids out. We really, really appreciate it. So the constituents in District 2 who brought that issue up are very pleased. So hope to work together on that a little bit more. Just one question about Project Home Key, if you can provide an update. I know there's one proposed project in District 2 that we are working on together, and just wanted to get an update on any other projects in Pasadena and how the program is going so far. Thank you.
Can you give us an update on that, please?
Yeah, so we're currently, in Home Key round 2, and the county has submitted 18 applications. We have only received a response from the state from some of those applications, and so the rest are still pending. So anything that we've heard from the state from, we've gone out and have notified, the applicants. However, we're still waiting for, about at least, 10 more. So hopefully we'll have additional information in the coming days. I know the state's goal was to have done all the notifications by now, but I think they got such a high volume of applications that a number are still pending. We are also excited about the opportunity for Home Key 3 as well, which we know will be coming up next, and that will provide further opportunities to pursue Home Key properties and for partnership as well.
Thank you. Could look forward to continue working together on this project.
Colleagues, I'm going to remind us that we're at minute 23, and we have 7 minutes left on this matter, and we have eight comment cards. Mr. Madison, followed by Mr. Wilson and Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a good discussion, and I want to also thank the supervisor and the county staff, as well as our staff, for all the work that's done. I do think there's a significant component missing, however, and it's one that I know the supervisor has been an advocate on, and I want to commend her for that, but also inquire. And what I'm talking about, of course, is, the legal mandate that we be able to, when it's not a criminal situation, to be able to place severely mentally ill, severely substance abuse, homeless persons into, some sort of protective or treatment custody. I know the supervisor some time ago proposed an amendment to 5150 that would have revised the language and added the clause, unable to care for oneself. Just this week at Fillmore, it was like yesterday or the day before, we had, it's unpleasant to talk about, but we have to talk about this as leaders. We had human feces throughout the area there, and we have Starbucks on one side, we have a CVS on the other, both very heavily trafficked by residents and others. I wonder if there is any current effort anywhere that we can support to fill in that I think that missing piece. with an additional legal authority. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Madison, I wholeheartedly agree. And obviously now, as you've probably seen, the governor has taken this issue up and is looking at a care court. We don't know what exactly that's going to look like. We know it's going to center around conservatorships, but in the county, we are building capacity to address those that are severely mentally ill on the street, that we can 5150 or bring into the hospital to stabilize, and then look at providing housing. We're doing that at all of you hospitals right now, and it's something that is being copied throughout the county at Rancho Los Amigos, Martin Luther King, Harbor, LA County, USC, and then all of you. But we are working with the state to see how we can change laws that will better serve those that are severely mentally ill on the streets that are languishing. And that Starbucks is one that I frequent, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That has been a challenge as it relates to the homeless that are congregating in that area, and it continues to be something that I know Captain Kehoe is very much aware of, and we are going to continue to work toward addressing that issue.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Good point, and I too support that, and we're following the governor's efforts, and we'll report back. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and hi, Catherine. Steve did touch on that point. You know, as somebody who has, I think, for 6 years in a row, with the exception of last year, participated in the homeless count, there is a chronically homeless portion of our population who do suffer illness and addiction. And I think without, I'd say, more robust tools, that population is very, very hard to tackle. And that's the group that I think is growing. I think that Pasadena, under Bill's leadership, does a really good job getting people in housing who are ready for housing and want housing. But it's always frustrating for somebody who wants to help people who can't really help themselves. And I think we need to be more creative, being compassionate. And I don't think allowing people to languish on the street is compassionate, honestly. So, you know, I'm all in anything we can do as a city to support changes there. I think the intention of people giving civil liberties is great, but it's not working in a set of cases here. We need to acknowledge that and be leaders. I think it's the right thing to do. So I appreciate your leadership, Catherine, on that. I know you have taken this to heart and have worked hard, and I echo Steve's sentiment on that as well. I think you also know that we are looking under Councilmember Hampton's leadership in EdTech, and whether tiny homes is something that would be something we could consider here in Pasadena. And we just got feedback from the Planning Commission on congregational land and allowing some portion of affordable housing there as well. So be assured that, you know, as a city, we are doing all we can to provide housing for people who can opt into housing or ready for housing. But my concern remains with what Steve mentioned, of those who maybe need a little bit more pathways and encouragement and handholding to break the cycle of homelessness.
Yeah.
I think it's the right thing to do. So I wanted to pound the table on that one for somebody who really thinks about this topic quite frequently. Anyway, it's great to see you all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wilson. Mr. Kennedy, and then we have 8 public comment cards. We're at minute 28.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, thank you, Lieutenant Jeff Diedrich, for your presentation. It's always good to know outstanding LA County sheriffs. My brother was a sheriff and served in that capacity for quite some time until retirement. With all of the work that you're doing in interacting with the homeless, I'd like to know briefly what has been your contact, if any, with the Pasadena Outreach Response Team. We call them PORT, P-O-R-T.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. I don't think we've had any contact with them to date. I know that we've been focusing, I think it's in the on near Beacon by the Dunn Edwards up there, and I know our last outreach partners have been doing the outreach, and we've provided that safety and security. But I don't believe that we have met that outreach component. I think in being here today, it's opened up a few things. I met with Pasadena Hope team member the other day, and I spoke with Supervisor Barger's homeless deputy Tyler Cash, and looking at ways that we can have a bigger presence in that area. And without getting into the weeds, the host team does have limited resources. We have a lot of obligations throughout the county. But to your point, we always look to improve our collaboration. It can never be what we're doing right now is okay. We always look for the next group. And what we've always said is if it's moral, legal, and the right thing to do, we will partner with anyone. So I can tell you that we'll seek out that group that you talked about. Ms. Barnett may know of them. I do not. But I think with our services-led model, and to the Vice Mayor's point a moment ago, is our homeless encampment protocol has worked since 2012 with 100% success. And what that means is we have never had to make an arrest. We have never had to use force, and we have never been sued. The LA County Sheriff's Department has interacted with thousands of homeless encampments in the last 10 years, and we've never been subject to litigation. It's because of our partnership with the board and with the Homeless Initiative Office that we've developed these protocols, but it also has civility and accountability because there's an end date. And so to that point, Councilmember Kennedy, we'll seek them out if there are other places, but as of right now, I have such limited resources on the host team. We can't overextend into one geographic area per se, if that makes sense.
Makes sense completely. Then I would ask interim city manager Cynthia Kurtz to give the council an update on the funding related to a port at a very at a meeting that will take place very soon of the council, if not the very next council, to ensure that we have the $200,000 gap to keep one additional team moving in the right direction. Those are the extent of my questions and comments, and I'm grateful for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And I would add, colleagues, that this is not the final discussion. Supervisor, I don't know if you're aware, but I sent a letter to the director of LA County Mental Health. I think it's Dr. Sheeran. Yes, and asked him to ask the doctor to come and talk to us about these issues, because many of the people that we do see on the street chronically are suffering from either mental health or, as has been stated, or substance abuse addiction, or both, and their dual diagnosis. And so I would invite someone from your staff to join us at that discussion. It's intended to be informative and also allow us to work better together with LA County DMH.
And can I just add, I just have to do a shout out to your mental evaluation team that you have within the city of Pasadena Police Department. And as a result of collaboration with them and on some instances where they have hospitalized individuals, I've instructed mental health to do a better job of collaborating with our hospitals on the discharge of individuals that are 5150, because I found a huge gap as a result of someone who was hospitalized that was up by Broman, quite frankly. And so I really do have to shout out to your police department for doing an incredible job with their mental evaluation team and their outreach.
Thank you. We'll pass that along. Public comment, 8 cards.
First speaker is Sonia Burnt, followed by Anthony Manusos, followed by Carl Selkin. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. I will ring a bell to give you a 30-second notification that your time is almost up.
Good morning. My name is Sonia Burnt.
Go ahead. Oh, Sonia, you muted yourself.
Ms. Burnt, if you'll unmute. Ms. Burnt.
I did.
There you are.
Am I there?
Yes.
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay,
Go ahead.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sonia Burnt. I'm a longtime resident of Pasadena and an advocate for persons experiencing homelessness here. Pasadena's situation regarding our 300 unsheltered residents is dire and urgent. Our city uses a scattered site motel voucher program for our unsheltered folks, which only provides shelter for a small fraction of those persons. It can take over 1 year for a person living on the street to obtain permanent housing. During that long wait, these persons are exposed to personal assaults, inadequate or no health and mental health care, lack of basic hygiene necessities, food insecurity, and emotional trauma. Supervisor Barger, we are aware that the county has partnered with other jurisdictions to create interim housing. A coalition of Pasadena supporters of our unhoused residents has been advocating for a tiny shelter community in our city for over a year. But community members need the county's support. Supervisor Barger, I sent a detailed email to Tyler Cash from your office about exploring a possible partnership between LA County and Pasadena for much needed interim housing in our city. Please ask Mr. Cash or the appropriate person to contact me to set up a meeting with a coalition of Pasadena supporters of more interim housing in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call on Anthony Manousos, followed by Carl Selkin, followed by Alex Bucklehide. Mr. Manousos, *6 to unmute.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
You can all hear me? Oh, good.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Anthony Manousos. Yes, hi. My name is Anthony Manousos. I'm a Northwest Pasadena resident. I'm also co-founder of a housing justice nonprofit called Making Housing and Community Happen. First, I want to say I totally support what our excellent housing director, Bill Long, has recommended, especially the need for more funding and more vouchers. Thanks to Bill and concerned citizens in our city, Pasadena has reduced our homelessness rate by over 50% in the last decade. But we're not resting on our laurels. We're seeking new solutions. As Councilmember Wilson has stated, our city is considering innovative approaches like rezoning church land for affordable housing and building tiny shelters to help address our city's housing crisis. One of the affordable housing projects I'm very excited about is affordable senior housing next to our magnificent city hall that will provide 111 units of affordable housing. The developer of this beautiful project plans to set aside a percentage of these units for those experiencing homelessness. So far, they have vouchers for only 10%, but would like to set aside 20% for those experiencing homelessness. So I'd like the county to consider giving additional county vouchers to this project. And also, as Council Member Alicia Williams mentioned, motel conversions. We'd like the county to support that effort, especially at East Pasadena, where there are a number of motels that would be excellent for that
Mr.
for conversion
Manousos.
to affordable housing. So I want to commend our city for doing what they've done, and
Mr. Manousos,
and,
your time has
just urge the
expired.
county to continue to support us in our efforts to end chronic homelessness
Thank you,
in our
Mr.
city.
Manousos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
For all you
Carl
do.
Selkin, followed by Alexander Bucklehide, followed by Pastor Kerwin Manning. Mr. Selkin, 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Hi,
Go.
my name
Hi.
is Carl Selkin. I'm a longtime resident of Pasadena, and I'm speaking for myself and as a co-chair of the Social Justice Committee of Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. And I'd like to congratulate the collaborative spirit that I see here between the county and the city of Pasadena, and welcome the provision of resources and the plans for resources that are included in this discussion, as well as the Senate Bill 1177. And one thing I'd like to suggest is that in addition to these kind of official collaborations, that we do more to engage the public in supporting these initiatives, not only spiritually, but also through let's say bond offers or whatever we can do to provide ways for all of us to participate in solving these problems and generating resources. I think there'll be a lot of support for that, and hopefully we can move forward there. I'd also like to encourage the continuation of new thinking about changing zoning requirements so that more opportunities exist for affordable housing that's convenient and high quality. So thank you again all for doing what you're doing. Really appreciate hearing from
Thank you,
you
Mr.
about these
Selkin.
wonderful
Alex Bucklehide, followed by Pastor Kerwin Manning, followed by Arita Crowell, followed by Jill Shook.
Good morning. Can I be heard?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Supervisor Barger, Council, Sheriff's Representatives, and staff. My name is Alex Buckelhide. I'm Assistant to the Superintendent President at Pasadena City College. I just want to also echo the salute to partnerships and collaboration that's on the docket today. PCC is proud to be part of this partnership as well, working with the Pasadena Department of Housing and Bill Wong and his team. We have been pleased to send a letter of support for SB 1177, and I hope we can all stand in support of that effort as well. At PCC, 5% of our students report housing insecurity. This spring, that translates to about 900 students of ours who have trouble finding a place to stay. This includes former foster youth, veterans, formerly incarcerated. We're an avenue for services and support, and we're glad to be a vehicle for a better future for these students. These students are from Pasadena, but they also come from LA County as a whole. And so homelessness and affordable housing are big, complex issues that we aren't equipped to address on our own. We're really grateful for the partnership that we have here and the work we've been doing together. And we look forward to continuing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buckelhide. Pastor Kerwin Manning, followed by Arita Crowell, followed by Jill Shook, followed by Heavenly Hughes. Pastor Manning?
Yes, to our mayor and council members, as well as our esteemed county supervisor, this is a divinely important matter. In the Gospel of Matthew 25, Jesus declared that one of the qualifications of entering heaven is providing for those who are homeless. I thought I'd just throw that in since we've been talking about Devil's Gate as well. But on March 9th, our housing director made an appeal to the Clergy Community Coalition in order to find a host for the bad weather shelter. We're currently speaking with pastors of churches who may be able to bring Bible solutions to this particular need. We look forward to working with the city and the county to provide temporary shelter during these most vulnerable times. And we know that our supervisor has always prioritized the people's voices in the process and partnership as well, and we're thankful for that. And when it comes to working together, I urge the mayor and council members to reconsider your recent attempts to silence and discourage the voices of our community by placing public comments at the end of council meetings. There's no need to do this. You've already limited our voices to 90 seconds each with the time limit of the first 20 to 25 minutes of the session. If you make this unnecessary, unreasonable change, the people might just start clogging up every single agenda item with comments that could have been made in the initial space provided for non-agenda items. This will prolong your meetings and disrupt your ability to work through the agenda. Please leave the public comments at the beginning. We must work together. Thank you guys for all you're doing. God bless you.
Arita, thank you. Arita Crowell, followed by Jill Shook, followed by Heavenly Hughes. Ms. Crowell?
Good morning, Supervisor Barger and Mayor Gordo and members of the council. Thank you. I too appreciate this opportunity for the county and the city to be working together. And I want to add my commendation to the marvelous leadership that Bill Wong and the Housing Department provide for our homeless services. We do have homeless services, however, that are in other places besides the Housing Department. And we see some lack of coordination. We have this wonderful port team, which is housed outside the Housing Department. And we have the Hope team, which includes county resources as well as city resources. I believe that we can do a better job of using our resources by coordinating these better, as well as the fact that we need more. But right now, both of these local crisis response teams are available on very limited hours. They are mostly daylight hours, and we know that a lot of the crises occur outside those. So we need to do a better coordination job there. And I think that can be done in partnership with the county, which is working so hard to develop alternative crisis response system countywide, which will include a better way of diverting crisis calls into appropriate resources that don't have to include law enforcement. So we need a place in the city to work directly with the county on these shared resource issues that go beyond homelessness. So I thank you for your time and the good work that is going on. And yes, we need more vouchers.
Thank you, Ms. Crowell. Your time has expired. Jill Shook, followed by Heavenly Hughes. Ms. Shook?
I'm Anthony Manousis, Jill Shook's husband. She has another meeting right now, and she directed me to say the things she wanted to say about vouchers and motel conversions,
Mr. Manousis, I'm sorry, we can't
I'm
give your
finished.
time.
I just wanted to let you know
Okay, thank
Jill
you.
is not available to speak.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Heavenly Hughes. Ms. Hughes?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Hello, my name is Heavenly Hughes, co-founder of My Tribe Rise. My Tribe Rise is a nonprofit community organization. We focus on food and housing insecurities, social justice, and public safety. We know the solution for better living starts with relationship and dialogue, so we appreciate this opportunity to speak with you, Supervisor Catherine Barger, and all those who are here to advocate for homelessness. Many of these meetings regarding homelessness focus on seniors. We want to say that homelessness and lack of affordable housing reaches further than seniors. There are people in my age range, 40 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old, who cannot afford to live in Pasadena. When we were listening to one of the LA County initiatives for homelessness, it says that it took, a person had to make $40 an hour to be able to afford a 1-bedroom home in Pasadena. For those who are working at the $15 and $16 poverty wages is what I call those, we can't afford to live in Pasadena. The rents are extremely high. To afford a mortgage is not even reachable in Pasadena. Those are the things that are causing homelessness in Pasadena. I also want to bring up something that we have talked to Supervisor Barger's office about, Congresswoman Judy Chu, about domestic violence and how many people are becoming homeless due to domestic violence. I received this letter from Shepherd's Door, who recently called us because we do work with residents.
Your time has expired. I'm sorry. That completes public comment on this item. Ms. Hughes, if you want to email me your comments, I will forward those over to Ms. Barger that you weren't able to finish.
I think the point made by the speaker is a very good one. There's a relationship between domestic violence and abuse and homelessness, and I think that's a good point for all of us to keep in mind on the county side as well as the city, as we go about providing resources to people who suffer from domestic abuse or violence and then find themselves homeless or in danger of homelessness. Next speaker.
That completed public comment on,
Okay,
on this item.
so we are, it is, we're now in minute 47.
Yeah, I have my hand up, but it's.
Go ahead, Mr. Hampton.
My question is very, very brief. I was wondering, is there a, this is just a question I've never asked before as a school board member, previous school board member, PUSD had, 1,200 families that were homeless, or 1,200 students that were considered homeless. And so I was wondering, is there a priority list for availability of housing? For example, if you are a family and you're homeless, living out of your car or living on the street, is there a priority given to families?
Permanent housing resources.
Maybe I should I try to answer this? So when we outreach and we encounter families, we definitely do our best and anything possible to get them into Family Solutions Center. Each of our service planning area has a lead agency that focuses on families and have resources to get families indoors. From there, they work diligently with the family to make sure that they get back into more permanent housing through a process of, getting them back on their feet, documentation, ensuring everything is done in order to obtain that housing. There isn't a specific priority as far as like, this is a resource available right now, you're going to get right into it. There's a process that needs to happen, which includes getting someone into interim housing, stabilization, and ensuring that the well-being is also there.
Thank you.
And then just one question, if you don't have this data right now, that's totally fine. Maybe mayor or city manager, if you could get that information over to me. What is the percentage of those that our caseworkers engage with that are actually families, versus single individuals?
Here in Pasadena, it's about 14% families and 86% single individuals.
Thank you.
Oh.
I'll have other questions offline about this.
Thank you, Mr. Hampton.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. why don't we proceed to the next agenda item and final agenda item. And we are now about 25 minutes from the hard stop. This is agenda item 4, and this is an update on the implementation of Los Angeles County Measure J, Alternatives to Incarceration Charter Amendment.
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying, as you know, on November 3rd, 2020, the voters of Los Angeles County approved what they call Measure J, which dedicated no less than 10% of the county's unrestricted funding to go back to the community to invest in youth development, job training, small business development, supportive housing services, and alternatives to incarceration. Really, the primary focus being on diversion, getting people the resources before they come into our criminal justice system. Since then, Measure J has gone through quite an evolution. It's now called Care First Community Investment by the county, so it's no longer referred to as Measure J. It's going through an extensive process of finding a third-party administrator to allocate the funding. This means for the dedicated nonprofits and community-based organizations in Pasadena, there are two specific ways for you to apply for funding. The first is through the Amity Foundation, the third administrator selected by the county. Again, they are going to be overseeing a portion of these funds annually for 3 years. In the coming months, we expect Amity will release notices of funding, opportunities to community organizations inviting applications pertaining to programs administered by Amity. So I think it's important for us to recognize that we're trying to build an infrastructure that has not been in place. I mean, you've already got some organizations in Pasadena, like the Flintridge, that is doing incredible service and providing job training and support to those that were formerly incarcerated. But we want to make sure that we build an infrastructure that is going to support those that have not come in contact with the system, those that are possibly at risk moving forward. And so I think I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments that you all have regarding moving forward with this project.
Thank you. One question I have for the supervisor or staff is, you know, the county is essentially a social service service provider. When you look at the budgets of, I think it's a $56 billion budget, supervisor, you would know better, but how much of the unrestricted county budget was dedicated previous to Measure J? I have to believe it was somewhere around that 10% number, maybe more. And my understanding is Measure J provides a floor, not necessarily a maximum.
Right, it's about 300 million over 3 years. And that could increase, but the baseline is 10% of our unrestricted dollars in the county budget, not the overall county budget. And so right now it's estimated about 300 million over 3 years. It's about 100 million a year is what we're setting aside.
And do we know how much was dedicated to that same type of services prior to Measure J?
I think under Measure J, and I'll get a clarification if I'm wrong. It's got to be new. It can't be subsending any of the current services that are being provided by the county. So it's got to be above and beyond.
So it's
And
additive.
Measure J language is very specific on that.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. But I think it's important, Mayor, for us to coordinate with you all, because again, you have infrastructure already in place, and I cite Flintridge as an example of an incredible organization that could benefit and expand based on some of these dollars that are going to become available.
Thank you. First public comment card.
Okay, so the first speaker that we'll call is Heavenly Hughes, followed by Jane Ward. Those are the two comments that we have for this item.
Ms. Hughes, welcome.
Ms. Hughes?
Oh, thank you for this opportunity. Usually you guys put the two agenda items together and we are only able to speak once. So let me just pull up. I didn't realize that you were going to call me again. So what I was bringing up earlier, if it's trying to continue about domestic violence and how it has affected the homeless community, My Tribe Rise works with local Pasadena organizations who address domestic violence. And oftentimes what we've noticed is that there's not housing for those who are victims of domestic violence. We received a letter from Shepherd's Door, and I just want to read this one statement really quick, if I may.
Go ahead.
Let me pull it back up really quick. I hope I can do this in the 90 seconds. Hoping that, echoing what Pastor Manning said earlier, we appreciate public comments being beforehand, and we wish that we can go back to the 3 minutes that we originally had. But Shepherd's Door sent me this, saying domestic violence should have immediate access to affordable housing without having to resort to homelessness, subjecting the family to further trauma and instability. Currently, there are more animal shelters than domestic violence shelters. Most victims leaving at 30-day crisis shelters leave unhoused. The process to gaining permanent housing is complex, at a lot of red tape and slow, which forces victims to choose between being homeless or returning to their abuser. Housing is the #1 reason why victims do not leave their abuser.
Ms. Hughes, your time has expired. So
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to Jane Ward.
Ms. Ward, welcome.
I'm calling on behalf of the Pasadena chapter of Showing Up for Racial Justice, and our members wanted to share our strong support for Measure J, which promises more investment in community care and less investment in Pasadena's carceral system and in expensive surveillance technology that's been proven useless in many other cities. Diversion of public funds away from policing in prisons and toward community-based alternatives is especially needed in the city of Pasadena, where police who kill Black residents like Anthony McLean, Kendrick McDade, and J.R. Thomas face no repercussions and are still out patrolling the very neighborhoods and families that they had already traumatized. The lack of police accountability in the city, caused by the failure of city council members to direct the city manager to create functional and transparent OIS policies, has cost the city millions of dollars in legal settlements and has exposed the ways that our mayor and council members are beholden to police associations and other forms of police pressure. Here in Pasadena, even with such tight protection of police officers, we learn every year about a new form of police corruption. In 2019, it was Lieutenant Gordikian dealing illegal guns, probably also illegal drugs. In 2020, it was Officer Jim McGuinden shooting Anthony McLean in the back and taking his life, and then claiming a gun was visible in a body-worn camera video which no one, including all of the journalists who covered the case, could actually see. And now it is Pasadena PD Sergeant Big G Gligorjevic, who was pulled over for a
Ms. Ward, your time has expired.
left his gun unattended in the vehicle with a minor.
Thank you very much.
This is what policing looks like in Pasadena, and no amount of investment.
Mayor and council, that completes public comment on this item.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, your hand is up.
Mayor, I just want to make sure before we end the meeting that I have at least a minute to put on the record certain information directly to Supervisor Barger. I can do it now, or I can do it whenever you recognize me at the appropriate time.
This related to an agenda item, Mr. Kennedy, or?
No, but generally at the end of our meetings with the supervisor, you ask each council member, is there anything that we want to bring up for consideration for future meetings?
Future agenda items. Got it. Go ahead and make your comments, Mr. Kennedy, about future agenda items.
Oh, I just want to bring to our esteemed supervisor's attention a couple matters that we're grappling with in District 3, but really in the city as a whole. Water continues to be a big issue, clean, safe, and affordable and adequate supply, and we're replacing our sunset reservoirs. That's a $45 million project. I want to talk to you more about that, Supervisor. And then the Central Library, which all of us in the county, through our shared system of checking out books and periodicals, et cetera, concerned about. It is our Notre Dame of Pasadena, and that's going to be somewhere between 75 and $95 million nut to crack in terms of renovating that. Now it's shuttered because of reinforced masonry. And then we want to look at our asset of the Rose Bowl as more of a regional, if not national, facility. And with that, I'd like to make sure that.
Go ahead and wrap it up, Mr. Hamilton. We've got an echo. Go ahead and wrap it up, Mr. Hamilton.
I think that's a key factor in making sure that I shut it down. But nevertheless, that's going to be somewhere between $250 and $300 million. And the very last thing I'd like to say, contrary to many other cities, Pasadena wants to provide more affordable housing, including housing for homeless. But we need county support.
Mr. Kennedy, the city attorney is giving me the eye. I think we're going off our agenda here.
Okay.
Maybe we can just.
No problem, Mayor.
You can bring those to my attention.
No problem, Mayor. And just wrapping up, the most immediate is getting 28 vouchers for homeless housing across the street from City Hall for the 111 unit senior affordable development. And these are issues, the supervisor, that hopefully staff has taken down that we want to talk about at a later date. Thank you very much, Mayor Gordo, for giving me the latitude, and I understand in terms of what the city attorney has recommended in moving forward. Thank you, Mayor.
I think it's appropriate to raise future agenda items, but let's not get too far down the line on any of them. Mr. Hampton?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Supervisor, for being here and joining us today. I'm going to be very brief. Last time we came together, I requested that we have a discussion about mental health services and where the county could help our city and our health department out with mental health services for our youth, as well as just our general public. And then also I mentioned the same thing about mental health services and in cases of trauma, for example, really bad car accidents or officer-involved shootings or shootings in their neighborhoods. And so I just wanted to see, Mayor, where we can, circle back around on that original discussion from last year. I know that we were in the pandemic, so there were a lot of things that were very pressing, but mental health is definitely a top priority for I think our city and everybody in our community moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I think I included in my weekly letter a few weeks ago, a letter to the DMH director to join us for a meeting. And we have our own health department in Pasadena, but a lot of people in our community don't realize that carved out of the health department are mental health services for the most part, and those remain under the jurisdiction of Department of Mental Health. So I think it'll be helpful to have that discussion with LA County DMH, and hopefully the supervisor's office can join us and have a baseline understanding of the services that are provided to Pasadena residents by LA County DMH and how we can better coordinate and maximize our local resources, including resources expended by our nonprofit community. I think that's an important discussion for all of us to have.
Mayor, I would add to that, the whole issue of parity. We talk about healthcare parity, but mental health needs to be put on the same level in terms of access to services. And so I'm going to follow up with Dr. Sharon and coordinate with you all on that moving forward.
Thank you. I think Supervisor, that'll be a helpful conversation for all of us to have. So much of what we so many of the issues that we grapple with today, whether they involve law enforcement or homelessness or education, involve the issue of mental health. And particularly now in the pandemic, I think that issue is more than ever front and center. And so that's an important discussion for all of us to have together to see how we can better serve residents of Pasadena. Great. With that, Supervisor, did you have any closing comments? I think we're going to meet our timeline.
Yep.
But
No, I've got my to-do list now, so we will follow up. But again, I want to thank each and every one of you for your leadership representing the city of Pasadena, and you, Mayor Gordo, for the incredible job you're doing. I just look forward to working with you as we progress, and especially with homelessness.
Thank you, and thank you again for your efforts individually and collectively with your staff. It's certainly noticed, and we appreciate it. With that, I will thank everyone for participating, and thank you to the supervisor and her staff. And we look forward to having more discussions and coordination related to all of these issues. Thank you all very much. And we will stand.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed and productive week.
We will stand.